Okay, I want to talk about. I was thinking, what movie, what franchise? It can be movie, franchise, comic, anything. If I could give to one director, what would it be? So naturally, as the big Ninja Turtles fan, I've never seen a Ninja Turtle movie that I'm like absolutely obsessed with. And so I went with Ninja Turtles for my franchise. I also have some backup ones, but Ninja Turtles. Finding a director for this was actually surprisingly hard because I wanted something. I wanted definitely it to be R rated, more in line with the comics. But even in the comics, people kind of downplay there's still humor in these comics. So you need someone who can handle some lighthearted moments. And I would like it to be black and white. And I came up with someone who can do, I think, phenomenal action scenes, can capture a comic book vibe, but I also think can do some lighthearted moments. So I kind of went with Robert Rodriguez doing Ninja Turtles.
Oh man, I'm into it. We've seen him do the black and white with Sin City. Mm-hmm. We've seen him do all sorts of different action. His tones are able to be like camp and still like, yeah, man, I think that's a great fit. So you think the black and white Ninja Turtles, just to kind of capture the spirit of the comics?
I would like to see it that way, even if they didn't do black and white. But worst case scenario, I would want them to all have red bandanas if they're doing it in color. I would not want them to have the different colors. I want them to be true to the comics, where everyone just wears red. And give it an R, but they're still like Mikey's a goofball in the comics, no matter what version you're in. He does a lot of humor. And I feel like I was thinking of some people, like I thought of like some really dark directors, but I'm like, I think that's too dark. Then I thought of people like Joss Whedon. I'm like, I think that's too light. And then I actually thought of Matthew Vaughn as well. I thought Matthew Vaughn might be able to do it, but I think because I think he can do phenomenal action, and he can do comedy. But I think he's too much. And Robert Rodriguez is like, I think can kind of pull it off.
So you're very well versed in the Ninja Turtles. Conceptually, for the people who may not know, what was the birth of the Ninja Turtles? Can you kind of tell people where it came from?
The birth of the Ninja Turtles is, first of all, it's a parody of Daredevil.
Correct.
The hand became the foot. And what's his name? The staff or whatever became Splinter. And it's a parody of that. And even the ooze that falls, it's the same ooze that blinds him, like where they turn. So it's dark, but it is very tongue-in-cheek from the onset of it. That's kind of the whole point.
More satire than just regular comedy, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of satire, and there's some funny moments in it, and there's a lot of camp. Like, as someone who I would love to see like a dark, gritty one, but I honestly don't think that necessarily there's arcs that are like that. But on a whole, there's a lot of camp and a lot of fun and a lot of good nature with it.
So I'm thinking almost like Schindler's List, like where the movie's black and white, but the bandanas are red.
Too.
That'd be dope.
I thought that too.
That's how they did it in the comics, right?
No, they're just all black and white.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that, because we can infer that all of them had red bandanas, but why? How do we know that?
Well, the covers are in color.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, I never actually read the original comics, but I did, I've watched some documentaries about it.
It's good. It's not the best version of the comics, though.
What's the best version of the comics?
The 2012 IDW, which is still ongoing. The IDW Comics bought the license, and it's when Nickelodeon got the license, they licensed them out to IDW, and it is not only the best comic, it is the hands down the best version of Ninja Turtles you can ever. It combines all the mythos into one. That's logical. It's great. It's
nice.
As close to perfect for Ninja Turtles as you can get.
So do you have, I want to do one. Do you have other ones?
I do have others. You go ahead and do yours.
All right. So I didn't think about it outside of the realm of movies. I don't know that it would have changed my mind. I had a kind of a tough job at this. I was trying to really think about tones, exactly like you said. Like, what kind of tone are we going for first on what property? And one that I got kind of excited about, and this is very outside the box, but Panos Cosmatos doing A Nightmare on Elm Street. Panos Cosmatos is the guy that did Beyond the Black Rainbow and Mandy.
Okay. I think, yes, that is actually brilliant.
I think where he could excel extremely well is the dream sequences and the psychedelic elements that really weren't present in A Nightmare Before or A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I feel like that's where A Nightmare on Elm Street could really be elevated into something else is if they could capture the surreal nature of dreams, the non-linear way that dreams happen, and how they're nonsensical in a way, but he's really able to capture this like dreamlike atmosphere throughout his movies as they are. Like, I always, and I don't know that I'm the person who like thought of this originally, but I feel like his movies feel like a dream that you had about a movie that you saw back in the 80s. There's like this really I don't know, rich atmosphere. And what I don't know that he can do is the straightforward side of it, like in the waking world where things are supposed to be like normal. I don't know how well he would do in that, but just to imagine some of those Freddy kill sequences done in his visual style, I think would be crazy.
I think it'd be awesome to not have and make it less of a slasher flick, like make it just a little more lean into his stuff. I think it's definitely would elevate that from what it is.
Yeah, man, and they tried to do the Jackie Earle Haley one back in like 2010, and it had some cool elements in the dream stuff. But I want to see that part of the franchise just really cranked up and see what would happen. See what would happen there. So that's one of my picks.
My next one, so I almost went with this one, but it almost happened, so I'm not even going to go into it. But Alien, done by Neil Blomkamp.
That's on my list as well.
Yeah, I'm like, that almost happened. So we can go into that one since it's on both of our lists. I just think he visually, I think would do better for it than Ridley Scott would, personally.
Yeah, where we're at now, I think it needs some fresh blood brought into it. I think it was pretty dick move of Ridley Scott, but at the same time, I understand, like, this is his shit. It's been his shit forever, but Neil Blomkamp was like right there knocking at the door. Michael Biehn had been approached about coming back to play fucking Hicks in it, and right there at the buzzer, Ridley Scott said, nope, not happening, and I'm going to keep making these movies. And I think it was probably the worst thing for the future of the Alien franchise, because at this point, people aren't as enthusiastic about seeing it move forward, where I think we're right there in the perfect time to do that kind of relaunch of the original franchise, similar to what they did with the most recent Halloween movie, where you bring back the original cast members and all of that shit. I think it was really good timing for that, and now I don't know if it's passed.
I mean, but at least Neil Blomkamp now is getting another cyber, series. He's doing the RoboCop remake.
What?
So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's a great fit.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Man, yeah, I like that a lot. All right, let's see. What, you got another one?
So actually mine, once I started thinking of Neil Blomkamp, and I was like, what can he do? And I was like, well, he's doing RoboCop. He almost did Aliens. So a thing that I actually think he would be very, very interesting to do, I would love to see him take a shot at Judge Dredd.
Oh, dude, yeah, that would be a great fit also.
I think like that, especially like Elysium, where he saw his view of a dystopian future and it's kind of like run down. I would really like to see him lean into that. And I think his visual style would really bring that world to life.
I don't know who did The Last Dredd with Carl Urban, but I liked so much of that movie.
It's the Raid in a cyberpunk world, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, dude, did you like The Raid?
I saw it once when I was really, really drunk, so I need to go back and watch it.
All right. Yeah, I'm curious what you think about that. It is very much like a video game. Punch them up all the way to the top of that building. But I love it. I think it's great. And I think your pick there really does fit the tone of what was established in that previous movie. Mm-hmm. I thought Carl Urban was an exceptional Dredd. Unfortunately, unless they found some way to go back before that, we couldn't have him in this sequel. Yeah. But yeah, I think that would be a really good mix.
Show for a while, but
what's your next like to one? See that. All right. So this isn't exactly going to be a moneymaker. I'll just preface it by saying that. Roman Polanski's Apartment trilogy. It started with Repulsion, and then The Tenant, and then Rosemary's Baby. And I think that Ari Aster would be an exceptional fit for those movies. I haven't seen Midsommar yet, but I did see Hereditary. I love his character work. We saw him really do this track the descent into madness with Toni Collette's character so well and so concisely in Hereditary that I think tonally it shares a lot in common with the Apartment trilogy, which basically the Apartment trilogy are 3 movies that they're really not connected in any other way than thematically, and it's basically a person going crazy in an urban environment. Like that's basically all it is. You can't trust your neighbors. You can't trust the people who are supposed to be like there for you, you know, and just that paranoia and that hysteria. I think he could do it really fucking well. And I feel like those movies, other than Rosemary's Baby, are incredibly underseen. So maybe it could, you know, kind of give people an appreciation or a reason to go back and watch the original ones.
That's actually, I think, great. I talked about it numerous times. Rosemary's Baby is easily my top 3 horror films of all time.
It's a good one.
And I think that is a perfect fit for that series. Even though I wasn't too into the one you said, I don't know, Hereditary.
Yeah,
I think he is a perfect fit.
All right, what's your next one?
So mine is Tank Girl, directed by George Miller.
George Miller, Mad Max, Fury Road, or all. Yeah, man, I like it.
Because I just want to see some crazy kangaroo man fighting in a Mad Max type world.
So your connection to Tank Girl, did it start with the movie, or did you know the source material?
No, movie, which I liked as a kid, which is just awful. And then I went to the comics, which are very like that punk rock 80s comic, like
right?
Ninja
Girl
Turtles,
shit.
Yeah. It's really, really cool, and I think in the proper hands, that franchise could be awesome.
Yeah, I like where your head's at. You're kind of keying in on some of the genre movies that I like a lot, and it's like it's high camp, but at the same time it's got like that kind of like punk rock edginess to it. I think that he would be a really good fit for that. Obviously, we know the dude can shoot action like nobody else. He's getting a little long in the tooth at this point, but man, I wish we would have got that Furiosa spinoff or the sequel to the Fury Road or all. But I don't know if it's like too late in the game if we're ever going to see another one by him.
I don't know if we are either, man. But I would love to get that.
So you said Blomkamp for Alien. I actually wrote that as well. But then I also started thinking, like, these are some of my favorite filmmakers working right now. I think Alex Garland could do something really unique with the Terminator franchise.
Ooh, that's a great one. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't even think of Alex Garland. He's like one of my favorite directors.
I say get away from the big action spectacle of the later Terminator movies and make it something a little more cerebral. Strip it down, bring it back to just the basics, and I think he could do something interesting with it that didn't just feel like another sequel to this series that's just, it's kind of just beating itself to death at this point.
I agree. Like, I think he could bring something interesting out of it. I think it would tank and Yumi would love it. But
yes, correct.
It would be such a interesting way because he would strip it down and make it into a more, there's a lot of depth to his films, and I feel like that's something that they could use.
Yeah, it's what they're lacking. They did become like Terminator 2 became the center of the Terminator franchise. If you ask me, it was like everything became built off of that sequel as opposed to being built off of the original. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like tonally it went way more in that action direction, where Garland could bring it back to being more of a science fiction movie, more of like a contained, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Garland would actually make an interesting Alien movie too, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think he would strip it back to, because to me, Alien is the best of that franchise, and I think Garland would capture that more.
Because I know I got a couple more. Let me do Gareth Evans, the director of Monsters and the director of the 2014 Godzilla, who went on to do Rogue One. What he does so well, is capture ground level reactions and the human ramifications of these gigantic catastrophic events. Like Godzilla 2014, I know people don't all universally love it, but I think most people that saw it can definitely understand why I think he captured the chaos of what that would actually do in our world in a way that no other Godzilla movie had done before. Like just the water displacement. Godzilla gets up out of the water in Hawaii and it creates a tsunami that just fucking floods everything, and you're watching it from ground level. I say all that to say he would do a really great job at War of the Worlds.
Ooh, yeah. That's a really good one, because Monsters is phenomenal.
It's really good.
Such an underappreciated film. Like, I think that is just next level filmmaking, and to see him do War of the Worlds, I think he would fit that better than Godzilla, personally.
Yeah, I think you could do some really interesting shit with it, and just those big tripod aliens. Like Spielberg did a pretty good job from capturing those from ground level, and like the panic and all of the chaos that ensues. But I feel like that one's getting to be ripe for being remade. Like it's been 20 years or close to 20 years since the last one. It's a beloved story, H.G. Wells, that's been done several times in the film medium, so it's not like one that is a sacred cow or something, you know?
Yeah, I think he could do a really good job on it. I have actually just one more.
Okay.
So Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, good one.
Doing The Dark Crystal.
Man, why didn't that happen already?
Isn't that like a perfect pairing?
Yeah, I don't think it could be much more perfect marriage of material and filmmaker.
Like imagine because The Dark Crystal, I'm very excited for the new Netflix show. I love The Dark Crystal. Easily my favorite film as a kid. Still one of my favorite
awesome
films. And it's his visual style. Like I would want it to be in his character designs and everything. Let's really lean into, because that's a kid's film that would never be made today. Let's just lean into the weirdness of it. Let's lean into how creepy The Dark Crystal really is. And the Skeksis, I think his design of them, like completely throw everything out and revamp all the designs. I think he could just make, even if it was, predominantly like computer or puppets or whatever, because he uses a lot of practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would nail that.
So have you seen the cast for the 2019 series?
No, I haven't.
Awkwafina, Helena Bonham Carter, Natalie Dormer, Taron Egerton, Natalie Emmanuel, Mark Hamill, Lena Headey, Jason Isaacs, Eddie Izzard, Theo James, Toby Jones, Keegan-Michael Key, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Simon Pegg, Andy Samberg, Mark Strong, Anya Taylor-Joy, Alicia Vikander, Sigourney Weaver, Benedict Wong. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. Like, every person in here is A-list talent, and I'm really looking forward to it. But if you would have asked me, hey, who would be the perfect fit to direct The Dark Crystal? I mean, hands down, Guillermo del Toro is just such an imaginative and distinct filmmaker. Yeah,
it's like, to me, he was built to make that, reboot that franchise. It just is one of those things we'll never. I still wish we got to see his Hulk TV show that he was working on with HBO.
Oh man, yeah, so many projects that he's been attached to over the years. Even like, what would The Hobbit have looked like if Del Toro would have ended up doing it?
It would have been insane.
It would, yeah, and it would have been something unique instead of feeling like it was just unessential addition to the Lord of the Rings franchise.
I agree. Yeah,
that's a great pick.
Yeah.
All right, so I got two more.
Okay.
So Karen Kusama, not a really well-known filmmaker. She did a movie called The Invitation.
Oh, okay. Great movie.
Great movie. Very underseen. Probably a $10 million movie, maybe even a little bit less than that. If you guys are Game of Thrones fans, the guy that played Dario Naharis after the original guy, Michael Screen or Ed Screen, who went on to do Deadpool, the other guy, he stars as the lead in this movie, opposite of what was the guy's name from Logan Marshall Green, the guy from fucking Upgrade. So this movie is about a couple that show up at old friends' houses after a tragedy had kind of split this whole group up, and the couple who own the house, they had recently went to this retreat down in Mexico, like a self-help, lifestyle improvement kind of place where they may or may not have joined a cult. Our lead character starts to get very suspicious that there's something not quite right, that things aren't quite what they appear. But is he just paranoid? Has the grief caused him to be unstable, or is there really something nefarious going on? And just that idea of capturing paranoia, I thought she did exceptionally well. And I think taking that sensibility and applying it to The Thing, John Carpenter's movie, would be a great fit.
I would love to see that. Because the Thing, so I love the original Thing anyway. Like, that was one of my favorites. And then the John Carpenter remake, I think, is great too. And I would like to see her, if I were doing that, marry those two versions, because they're very different films as far as like the monster's concerned.
Yeah, I almost feel like, and I know this is controversial, I love John Carpenter's movie. I don't like the practical effects. I don't think the effects held up in the way that a lot of people did. I think it's kind of gross for gross sake a lot of times. And I like that, that they're kind of doing the body horror, David Cronenberg-esque thing. But I think they could downplay all of the actual alien stuff and play up the psychological element of like, which of us is actually infected with this alien creature inside of us. I think that she could just do a really good job of that. And as much as I love The Thing, I just felt like there's a little too much spectacle in it. It's other stuff I like the most. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So something a little more cerebral.
I agree with that 100%.
I think that's an interesting thing, because a lot of people laud it as being like some of the best practical effects and all of that, but I feel like it doesn't quite hold up in the way something like the chest burster scene from Alien versus the scene where they're doing the clear boom and they punch straight through the dude's stomach and there's like the big monster mouth in his stomach. Like, the Alien is flawless, and then that scene from The Thing, while being similar, it looks fucking pretty silly to me.
Well, and I'm a firm believer of horror and less is more. I think your mind will always create something that worse than you can ever put on camera.
Absolutely.
So I think she would capture that, really well.
So last one, big fan of this filmmaker, S. Craig Zahler. He did Bone Tomahawk, Dragged Across Concrete, and Brawl in Cell Block 99. And he's got a Quentin Tarantino-esque vibe about him. I think he handles ensembles and dialogue really, really well. It's kind of that heightened reality where everybody's a little too cool, a little too fucking witty for it to be like the real world. But I think taking those sensibilities, and he loves to cast old school. Like, he works with Kurt Russell, Vince Vaughn, Mel Gibson in his most recent movie. And I think that taking his style and making a Predator movie built around that would be fucking dope.
I actually think that's because the only one I've seen of his, I think, is, you said Bone Tomahawk?
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
It's good.
I haven't seen his other one. Great film. But I think that's a really good, because to me, Predator, like I've always said this, for me, I think is a bad movie that's beloved. And I feel like sometimes we put too much pressure on it, and the only even halfway decent one is the Robert Rodriguez one.
That's the only one of the franchise you think's good. So you think the first one's a bad movie?
I love every single movie, but they're all bad.
All right. I can see that.
That's why when the new one came out, I was like, it's dumb and horrible and has awful humor. It's a Predator movie. Like, I didn't understand the hate.
Yeah.
But I think I would like more out of that, because I do think there is more to be had out of that franchise, that we've never let it really spread its wings into something greater than what it is.
I think Rodriguez was on to some things with his take on it, and it seemed to be the one out of all of them that got abandoned in the new movie. Like, they don't really address it. And I think, like, other than the original, it's definitely the strongest entry. I think, like, it's the most masculine fucking science fiction movie ever made. Like, it's the most macho bullshit, the Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger shaking each other's hands.
It's so ridiculous.
And I think that Zahler understands that that masculinity in a way that a lot of filmmakers don't these days. Like his approach to Bone Tomahawk was take a Western movie and then throw a horror element into it. And so we've got the same idea of taking an action movie and throwing the science fiction element into it. And I think that he could do something. I think a lot of these people, they seem like unconventional picks. I think both of us like got our favorite filmmakers and then just thought like, what could they do that would work out good for their style? And I think that this is one that just like, I don't know that anybody's seen Dragged Across Concrete yet. It's fucking good, dude. It is like, it's very, very cool. And I'm really looking forward to what this guy does next. I know he wrote Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, which is the most recent Puppet Master movie.
I didn't know that.
Did you see that?
No.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's so bad. The original Puppet Master is better. It's got better special effects. The stop motion's better. The fucking creature or the puppets look cooler. I don't know what went wrong with The Littlest Reich, but what I appreciate about it is it's just completely non-conformity. Like, it is button pressing. It is the most non-PC movie I've ever seen. Like, he goes all in and just making the most offensive fucking version of Puppet Master ever, and for that I appreciated it.
I just thought one real quick and then we'll wrap it up. Just popped into my head. I would love to see Seven Samurai directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh man, fuck yeah, that would be fantastic.
Like, that's such a, you could, because the way he handles multiple characters and he loves Japanese gore, like the samurai movies, I think he could just make something next level off of that.
Or a Ryan Coogler Miami Vice.
Ooh, that's a very good one. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we could do this all day.
Yeah, for sure.